This is Dawn, also known as Mama Love with Metal Wani, and I'm talking to
Okay.
Phil Ehart with the legendary band Kansas. And thank you so much again for taking the time to talk to me today.
Well, sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool. So I wanted to start out talking about the tour you're on currently. And you already said that
hmm
you're in St. Cloud, Minnesota tonight. And so I'm wondering how have the recent dates been going for you so far?
Well, they've been going really well. I mean, it's we're doing over 100 shows this year, so we're working a lot and happy to be out here. And the crowds have been great, and it's always a pleasure to be out here playing and doing what we do.
Great. So you're about to embark on the Leftoverture 40th anniversary tour in September. Do you have any information on advance ticket sales? Are you getting a great response?
Well, we are, and yes, we're getting quite a bit of information, and it's it's kind of catching us off guard how well it's going just in advance ticket sales. It's you know, I think one of the things that's getting a lot of people's attention is we've never played a Kansas album in its entirety, and playing Leftoverture for the first time in its entirety, I think, is something that's getting a lot of people's attention. Plus, having a new album out in September, we're going to be playing some of that also. So with the new material, the new membership of the band, plus with playing Leftoverture in its entirety, I think is piquing a lot of people's interest. So we'll see.
I know it's piqued my interest. I would love to see Leftoverture live.
Yes.
So, like you said, you're touring now in advance of your upcoming release, the Prelude Implicit. And posted on your website, it's the first Kansas release in 16 years.
Yeah.
Was there anything specific that made you decide to put together an album now?
Well, pretty much, yes. It was, the membership change that we had, bringing on new singer Ronnie Platt, as well as David Mannion on keyboards, and Zach Risby on guitar, second guitar. Really, adding the new blood really got everybody wanting to record a new album. I mean, we've had releases. I mean, we've done, in the last 16 years, we've had, symphonic record and things like that, but no new material. And this album is the first album of new Kansas material in 16 years. So really, their addition had an awful lot to do with it.
Awesome. And I know that you're as you were just saying, your lineup has seen a lot of transition over the years. Do you feel it's relatively stable at this point?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's never been like a revolving door with Kansas. I mean, it's myself and Richard Williams are both original members. Then Billy Greer's been with us for over 30 years, and David Ragsdale, our violinist, has been with us for over 20 years. So, the four guys that added the three new guys have been here for a long time, and so it's not constantly changing, but it was a pretty big change, especially adding Ronnie as our new lead singer. Yes.
Right. With Steve Walsh's retirement, you brought in Ronnie Platt, who is a great vocalist. I think it's really amazing how similar his vocals sound to classic Kansas vocals. Was that something you were looking for in the new singer?
Well, you have to be careful with lead singer. I mean, Steve Walsh was a major force to contend with. He's an incredible singer, and was our original singer, and so having Ronnie come on, he had some pretty big shoes to fill, but he filled them. He filled his own shoes. Actually, he didn't really fill Steve's shoes. He brought his own shoes with him, and he's his own singer. But yes, he has a similar voice, but some bands look for that exact same voice. Well, we wanted Ronnie to have his own voice, and he does, and he brings. It's Kansas. There's no doubt about it. I mean, when you hear the band, it's Kansas, but he's his own singer. Yes.
Does changing band now? I know you said that you have the same, staple four members, but the changing of the personnel, does that take away from the process of writing and being a cohesive band with a definite classic sound, or does it add to the process by bringing in new and fresh ideas?
Well, in this case, I think that's a good question. In this case, it definitely added because Zach Risby, who's also playing guitar, one of the guitars in the band, it was a major contributor to the new material of this album, and so was Ronnie as far as the lyrics. So I think between those two, and then Dave Vanian, bringing the Hammond B3 sound that we had in the early days, bringing that back. So you add those three things together. These three guys were very influential in putting this new album together, as well as the four other guys. So it definitely helped. It just changed the recipe somewhat, but the end result is still Kansas.
I agree. Well, I couldn't find any writing credits posted online for the new album. Do all of the members have input into the writing process?
Yeah, it depends on the song. Some of the songs are, all, 7 guys, and some of the songs are 4 guys, and one of the songs is just 2 guys. It's just Zach and Ronnie on one of the songs. So every song is, you could say, is definitely a collaboration between all 7 of us, for sure.
Right. I was recently speaking with a gentleman in a death metal band, and he disclosed that he felt that drums and bass didn't really add much to a song in terms of the overall writing, which may be true in a death metal band, but I feel like progressive rock, progressive rock relies heavily on both of those aspects of a song. Would you agree with that?
Well, and again, it depends on the song. I mean, obviously, if it's an acoustic song, the drums and the bass aren't going to have much input.
Yes, that is
true. But with Kansas, it's there have been things that, as the drummer in the band, I have contributed, even if it's not necessarily drum beats or drum patterns. I also contribute titles to the songs and ideas for lyrics and things like that. So I think it's hard to make a blanket statement. I mean, in this album, Billy, our bass player, has contributed, lyrics, songwriting ideas, and things like that. So but I've seen bands where the bass player and the drummer sit there quietly, and the other guys come up with all the stuff. So you can't make I mean, I guess you can, but I don't think a blanket statement that the drums and bass don't have much to do. But maybe in his band,
right.
Maybe that's the way it is. But in Kansas, everybody's contributing and pulling in the same direction.
Great. Well, now I want to talk specifically about the new album, the Prelude Implicit.
Okay.
It's the album itself. I think it's beautiful. It's complex. It's technical, and quite honestly, it's brilliant in my opinion. There's so.
Oh, well, gosh! Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
There's so much passion clearly audible within the songs. What was the writing process like?
Well, again, that's a very good question. Going into this with new members and kind of a whole new outlook on things, we didn't really know what we were going to have. There was, we kind of looked at each other and thought, is this going to sound like Kansas? What is this going to be? And, we had song ideas. Zach Risby had some songs that he had written a few years ago for Kansas, but were never really presented to the band for other reasons. But it was the kind of thing that once all the material kind of started coming together, we kind of looked at each other and went, wow, this is going to be something. This is going to be, and it was a surprise to us. It was a pleasant surprise because, when you have the same guys year after year after year, there's nothing wrong with having that stability. But at the same time, you kind of know what you're going to get before you go in there.
Right.
And but with this particular instance, having a new singer and having Zach and David Branyan there too, we weren't quite sure. But as soon as it started to we actually went in a few months before we started recording, and we had just found one song that we just wanted to demo. Guys, let's just go into the studio, play this song, and see what it sounds like. And boy, it was spot on. We looked at each other and went, "This is Kansas. This is going to be great." So we had that had that somewhat of security and confidence going into this that it was going to be great, and we felt when it was finished that we had delivered on all counts. So we were very pleased.
Good. The reason behind that question is I was listening to the album and I was picturing, a bunch of guys working into the wee hours of the night, drenched in sweat and cranky, and I was hoping that you could tell me it wasn't really like that.
Well, there was some sweat. I don't know about the wee hours of the morning, but we usually knocked off around 10 at night. But it was. Yeah, there was a lot of sweat. We took the whole band down to Florida and rented a conference room at a hotel down in Destin, Florida, and went in there for a week and just set up in that hotel room in that conference room and did nothing but just work on the writing. And that was sometimes, 8 to 9, 10 hours a day, just working on this stuff and trying to pull it out of everybody and see what the ideas were, and started to turn things, formulate them into songs, and write demos, and so everybody could kind of get the feel of what the song was going to be like. And then you have the whole thing of lyric writing, which I would say that Wani probably carried the majority of that load, just locking himself in a room and working on lyrics continuously is also always a major task, in getting that to work. So yeah, it was, everybody kind of had their thing to do, and we were, again, pulling in the same direction always helps.
Right. So listening to the new album, it brought me right back to, classic Kansas. It absolutely has that classic sound that you've come to be known for. I'm wondering, how far in the front of your mind do you keep that historical sound when you're writing something new? Is it important to you that it sounds similar to your, catalog, or?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think it's, you don't want to play the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, it's the kind of thing that, even going back to our very first album, a lot of the songs were different from song to song. And I think through the years, even with Steve Morse playing guitar in the band, or John Elefante singing with the band, I mean, there was always, then once, Robbie left the band and David Ragsdale started playing violin, yes, you're right, there is a style there, but I don't think it's something that we really try to mimic. It just seems to happen, which is probably a good thing. It's nothing we really force. Well, come on, we have to play a 10-minute song or nobody's going to think we're Kansas, Right. That's not really how we approach things. They just seem to kind of happen that way, and some albums it's happened more than others, and other albums we know it didn't quite click maybe the way we wanted it to. But this particular album, we don't think there's a dud on the record. We think it delivers in all aspects of Kansas, whether it's a ballad, or whether it's a longer piece, or whether it's a piece that rocks really hard. It's all the elements are there, as well as the harmonies and of course you got to have the violin. The violin, in a lot of ways, is our signature.
Right.
Once that violin starts, you kind of go, okay, there's Kansas. And that violin has always, most of the time, has always been a big part of our sound.
Well, I have to say that when I really sat down to listen to the new album, I couldn't turn it off. I love Refugee.
Thank you very much.
I love The Voyage of 18. I love Camouflage and Section 60, which is the instrumental track on the album.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Was there any definitive inspiration for that song? Section 60.
Yes, and we put a there's an inscription in the album about Section 60. A couple of years ago, some of us went to visit Arlington National Cemetery in Arlington, Virginia, and of course that is a graveyard, you might say, for all the military people that have given their lives and died in wars and things like that. And there was a section, actually Section 60 of the graveyard, where there were people out there sitting by the gravestones and talking and having a drink and kind of not partying, but it was more like a picnic. Quite a few people were there, and we asked the guide that we said, well, what's going on over there? And he said, well, those are family members of the people that are buried there. And he said those are from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, as well as people buried there from 9/11, when the Pentagon and stuff like that. And he said it's kind of a very he said, but the Iraq War and the Afghanistan wars, of course, are still going on. And he said there's no memorial for those people that died there.
Okay.
There's a World War II memorial, there's a Korean memorial, there's a Vietnam, but those people have no memorial. And he said, so their family comes out, and their memorial is those gravestones, those tombstones. So this song is written for them as sort of, you might say, a audio memorial for those that are buried there. And that's what Section 60 is. It's an instrumental that's dedicated to those that are buried there.
Okay, it's a fantastic memorial then.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We think it is.
That explains the use of the military-inspired drums at the end.
Yes.
Which is it really gives the song, it gives the whole album a really heightened impact when you hear those military-style drums. It gave me a real melancholy feeling that just drove the whole album home for me.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. That's exactly what it's meant to do, and we thought it was very fitting to end the album with that. But you also mentioned "Refugee," which is a song about sexual trafficking, which is a huge problem around the world, and that's it's interesting. I've done some European interviews, and of course the word refugee over there has a different meaning than it does many other parts of the world.
Right.
And some of the journalists asked me that, well, is this about the Syrian refugees? And I said, well, no, it's not. But I could see how you might think, because this song is about somebody being forced to leave their home, out of abuse. And of course, I guess that could apply to a refugee of another nation or whatever. But it's about the sexual trafficking and the human trafficking that goes on around the world, and how these people are affected by it, and that's what that song is about. So there's some pretty heavy, weighty subject matters that are on this album. But Kansas has kind of always had that too. It's been kind of always a thinking person's band in a lot of ways, But hey, we got some straight ahead rockers too. So.
Okay, and along those lines, there's a couple of spots on the album, mostly within the song "Voyage of 818," which is really cool.
Yeah.
That particular song has a couple of spots where I would describe it almost like, like a freeform jazz or a garage band jam kind of action. Were those parts meticulously written and choreographed, or was there any element of improv?
No, they're that Voyage of 818 is very meticulously written and performed. I mean, it is a bear to play, and we worked very hard to work it out and get it to where it sounded cohesive and that it flowed from one part to the next. And it is it's a tough song. So it was there's not a lot of free form going in there other than maybe some of the solos, but overall it is it's a trip, it's a voyage for sure to play that song.
So Kansas overall has enjoyed a legendary 40-year career and toured all over the world. I know that's a big part of your band overall experience. Where has been your favorite stop so far over all the years?
Well, people ask us that all the time. Oh, what's your favorite place to play? Well, what's your favorite city? What's your favorite country? And
I apologize for repeating a question.
No, no, it's a good question. It's a good question, and we don't. None of us really ever have a pat answer. It kind of depends on when you were there, or what you remember about it, or where I met my wife, or something. It's something that but usually it's the audiences. It's the audiences and not the place. It's you remember the audiences because they were in Japan, and you'd never played to a Japanese audience, but when you play for a Japanese audience, it's pretty amazing. The first time we were in Germany, and we played at a outdoor festival to 60,000 people, and they all started singing "Dust in the Wind," with a heavy German accent. And it was something that you remember. You just go, "Wow, this is really incredible." And so it's or when you play one of the military academies, when we played West Point, and when we played "Dust in the Wind," they all came to attention. They all stood and sang, "Dust in the Wind" with us. And so you remember things like that. It's not necessarily they're your favorite places,
right,
but there are things that happen about the gig that, of course, we always love going to Europe. We love playing there. South America is great. Of course, the States, it's our home. Japan, there's always things you remember about all those, but usually it's the people. It's
right.
the people that you remember more than anything about the country itself, even though they're all great places to visit. It's the people that makes those countries so special,
Right.
in my opinion.
Excellent. So in closing at this point, my last question would be, how would you describe the sound of your new album in one sentence?
I would say that it is a new musical beginning for the traditional Kansas sound.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Well, thank you, Don.